Yo, solo leveling Arise fans. Today we're diving into the best and worst hunters in the game. With the latest updates shaking up the meta, some characters have skyrocketed to the top while others have fallen off hard. So, which hunters should you absolutely go for and which ones are just not worth your time? That's exactly what we're here to figure out. This tier list will break down the strongest hunters and the ones you might want to avoid. If you don't want to waste your resources on the wrong hunter, this guide is for you. Some characters may look great on paper, but just don't perform well in actual battles. But don't worry, we've got you covered. By the end of this list, you'll know exactly who to invest in so you can dominate the battlefield. Alright, let's not waste any more time, let's jump right in. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking hunters in solo leveling Arise. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The hunters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Han Song-yi, Kyuhwan, Kim Sang-shik, and Park Byum-shik. Alright, let's talk about the hunters in solo leveling, a rise that you probably shouldn't be using unless you enjoy suffering. We're diving into the D tier hunters, the ones that just don't quite make the cut. Maybe they had potential, maybe they just got unlucky, but whatever the reason, these are the hunters you'll want to swap out ASAP. Let's get into it. First up, we have Han Song-yi. She's technically a water damage dealer, but let's be honest, she's more of a light drizzle than a raging storm. She does have a fun synergy with Anna and some cool combos in her kit, so if you enjoy rogue style characters, she might be worth a shot. But when it comes to raw damage output, yeah, it's just not there. If you're looking to actually kill things efficiently, you're better off with almost anyone else. Then there's Jo Kyuhwan. He's got a fiery personality, literally because his kit is packed with burn effects. That might sound great, especially if you're building a burn-based team, but here's the catch. He doesn't bring much else to the table. No airborne, no knockdown, and his overall damage is just meh. He's decent in the early game, but the moment you unlock a stronger hunter, do yourself a favor and swap him out. Moving on to Kim Sang-shik, and oh boy, this guy. His biggest issue? His break potential is laughably weak. Sure, he does more damage than Kim Chul, but that's not exactly a high bar to clear. If you need a DPS, there are better options. If you need a tank, there are much better options. He's just stuck in this awkward middle ground where he doesn't excel at anything, making him hard to justify on any team. And then we get to Park Byum-shik. He's got one interesting gimmick. He can spam core skills when he's low on HP. Sounds cool, right? Well, here's the problem, he can only activate it once. After that, you're left with a hunter who has weak multipliers and nothing special to offer. He's like a jack of all trades, but really bad at all of them. Unless you have absolutely no other hunters available, just leave him on the bench. Now, to be fair, every hunter in the game has some use. If you're just starting out, you might have to rely on these guys for a bit. But as soon as you pull a better character, don't hesitate. Swap them out and never look back. Your dungeon runs will thank you. At the end of the day, the D-tier hunters aren't completely useless, they're just vastly outclassed. So unless you have a personal attachment to one of these characters, or you just enjoy a challenge, you're better off focusing on stronger options. There's a whole roster of powerful hunters waiting for you to unlock them, so go out there and build a team that actually gets the job done. And that's a wrap on the D-tier hunters. If you've used any of these characters and somehow made them work, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your strategies or just your suffering. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more solo leveling Arise content. See you in the next one. The hunters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Anna Ruiz, Gina, Hwang Dong-suk, Lee Ju-hee, Song Chiul, and Woo Jin-chul. Oh boy, let's talk about some hunters that are just fine. You know, the ones that aren't exactly trash, but also won't have you jumping out of your chair in excitement. Welcome to the C tier of solo leveling, Arise. These hunters can get the job done. Kinda, but if you have better options, you should probably use them. Let's break them down. First up, we've got Anna Ruiz. She's like that one friend who's always almost good at everything, but never quite there. Decent DPS? Check. Okay, break damage? Sure. But the catch, she needs a lot of investment before she actually starts pulling her weight. Think of her as Lim Tae-gyu's little sibling, similar playstyle but with less damage and break potential. However, Anna does have a little trick up her sleeve. She can reduce enemy armor with poison zones, which gives her a bit of extra value. Now, if you need a tank but don't have many options, Hwang Dong-suk exists. He's a self-buffing tank who does okay break damage, but the problem? There are just so many better choices. He's tankier than Kim Chul, sure, but he falls short everywhere else. Still, if you're early in the game and just need someone to take a few hits, Hwang is an acceptable pick. Just don't expect him to carry you. Speaking of just okay characters, let's talk about Lee Joo-hee. She's a free healer, and look, we love free stuff, but she's definitely not the best at her job. She's an okay buffer, an okay healer, but nothing more. If you're desperate for a healer, she'll do in a pinch, but as soon as you get someone better, she's probably going straight to the bench. Then we have Woo Jin Chul, another freebie and technically a tank. He's got great mobility and can dodge enemy attacks pretty well, which sounds great, until you realize his damage is kinda meh. If you like playing it safe, he's a decent choice, but if you want someone that actually hurts the enemy, there are way better picks. He's basically a budget version of Yoonho, Seo, and Emma. And honestly, one of the weakest SSRs. If you pull him early, you might even consider re-rolling. Let's move on to Song Chil, aka the burn guy. He's fantastic against mobs, but against bosses, he gets destroyed. And since bosses become the main focus later in the game, that's not great. Sure, his burn effects can work well with other burn stacking hunters, but overall, his gameplay feels underwhelming. If only he could melt bosses the way he melts mobs. Finally, we've got Gina. She's a mana generator, which sounds cool on paper, but in reality, she needs a fully optimized fire element team to actually be effective. Without that, she's just there. Her DPS isn't anything special, and there are much better fire hunters worth rolling for. She's like the person in a group project who helps a little, but doesn't really make a huge difference. So there you have it. C-tier hunters in all their mediocre glory. They're not bad, but they're definitely not the best. If you're stuck with them, you can make them work, but if you have better options, you know what to do. The hunters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Baek Yoonho, Hwang Dong-soo, Kim Chul, Nam Chae-young, Park Hee-jin, and Yoo Jin-ho. Oh boy, let's talk about some of the most underrated hunters in solo leveling. Arise. You know, the ones that aren't exactly game changers but still get the job done. The B-tier warriors. Not the flashy SSRs, not the bottom of the barrel picks, but the solid, reliable options you might actually want to use if you don't have the absolute best units. Let's dive in. First up, Yoo Jin-ho. And listen, this guy is like that one friend who's not amazing at anything but still manages to be super helpful. He can break and stun enemies, which is always a plus. The best part, he's free. That alone makes him a solid early game tank. Sure, he's not replacing Kim Chul or any SSRs, but if you need a filler tank, Jin-ho's your guy. Now, if we're talking about actual tanking monsters, we have Baek Yoonho. This dude is built like a brick wall and plays like one too. His whole kit revolves around breaking enemies and reducing their defense, which is insanely useful in longer fights. The only downside, his damage is, well, let's just say he won't be topping any DPS charts, but as far as tanks go, he's probably the best one out there. Speaking of tanky units, let's talk about Hwang Dong-soo. Now, this guy is an interesting one. He's got decent wind damage, self-shields, and, get this, he can actually remove shields from enemies. That's a super underrated ability. The problem, his buffs don't boost him enough to make him really shine. So yeah, he's solid, but unless you really need a shield breaker, you might find better options. Alright, let's switch things up with some ranged action. Nam Chae-young is here, and she's bringing the water damage. She's got some nice break potential, and the ability to freeze enemies is actually so good. Imagine locking an enemy in place while your stronger allies go to town on them. Beautiful. The only downside, she needs a lot of investment to really push her damage to the next level. Now, if you're looking for a super reliable tank, Kim Chul is your man. He's got shields, he's got stuns, and he's basically a budget version of Baek Yoonho. If you don't have Baek, Kim Chul is the next best thing, and honestly, that's not a bad place to be. He's a support tank through and through, keeping your team alive while still contributing to the fight. Finally, let's talk about Park Hee-jin, a wind element mage who brings some serious support potential. She can buff ultimate damage and remove debuffs, which makes her crazy valuable in certain fights. The only issue? There are higher tier characters who do what she does, just better. But if you need an SR support who won't let you down, Hee-jin's got your back. And that wraps up our B tier hunters. These guys may not be game breaking, but they've got their own strengths and can be super useful in the right situations. If you're still building your team and missing some of the top tier picks, don't sleep on these hunters. The hunters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Choi Jong-in, Esil Radiru, Han Se-mi, Kang Tae-shik, Lee Bora, Lim Tae-gyu, Malin Fisher, Min Byung-chu, Shimizu Akari, Silvermane Baek Yoonho, and Yoo Soo-hyun. Let's dive into the A-tier hunters of solo leveling. Arise. the ones that are strong but not quite the must-have units. These characters can carry you through quite a bit, but they come with their own little quirks. So, let's talk about some of these standout heroes and why they might just be what you need to push through the game. First up, we've got Choi Jong-in. This guy is a beast when it comes to fire damage, especially from range. He's got that sweet burn effect, which deals damage over time, and he's also got some solid debuffs to slow down enemies. If you're looking for a mage DPS who can deal with multiple enemies and provide a reliable single target DPS as well, Choi is your man. He's great at setting up combos and can easily lock down groups of enemies with his crowd control. Definitely one of the top choices for fire teams. Then there's Esil Radiru. She's a bit of a mixed bag. She's got a decent mix of breaking, utility, and damage, making her a versatile character. Her fire abilities are solid, especially with her break potentials though. Let's just say they're not the best in the game. She has future potential, but for now, she's more of a nice to have character, rather than a must get. If you're tackling harder fire content, she'll be useful, but if you're just cruising along, she's skippable. Now, Han Se-mi might not be a pure damage dealer, but her value lies in her utility. This wind specialist can heal and recover MP, making her incredibly useful for longer fights. Plus, she's got a nice selection of airborne effects to mix things up. Her buffs help your team stay alive longer, but she does have a bit of a drawback. If you're running a team of mixed elements, her synergy might not be perfect. Still, in the right setup, she can really make a difference. Next, we've got Kang Tae-shik, the SR character who punches way above his weight. His bleed ability makes him a fantastic DPS character, and he can keep up with SSR characters once you advance him. Kang is one of the top DPS picks if you're stuck without some of the higher tier SSRs. He's a straightforward damage dealer, and his bleed effect can really rack up the damage over time. If you're in need of a solid SR hunter, Kang is a great choice. Let's talk about Lee Bora. She's got decent dark damage, and while she's not a burst DPS monster, her real value comes in her debuffing capabilities. She can slow down bosses, and that charm buff can really ramp up your damage output. Lee is more of a support DPS hybrid, making her a reliable option when you need someone to help destabilize bosses while dealing a fair amount of damage in return. Lim Tae-gyu is another one who's pretty solid, especially when it comes to break damage. His ultimate skill hits like a truck, making him great for taking down bosses. He's a strong break character with some DPS potential on the side. If you need someone who can dish out great damage while also providing some utility for breaking enemy defenses, Lim Tae-gyu is a great option. Maylin Fisher is a water support character who can really shine in the right team. She's not the strongest healer out there, but she brings some decent buffs and has the ability to remove enemy shields with her basic skill. While she's not on the level of some of the top tier healers like Min Byung-gu, she's a solid choice if you're running a water-focused team, especially with hunters like Seo or Alicia. And finally, we have Yoo Soo-hyun. She's one of those high DPS characters who doesn't rely too much on elemental weaknesses to deal damage. She can apply defense penetration, which is super useful against tanky bosses. Her ability to increase fire elemental damage through magic reaction also gives her an edge. The downside, she's a bit slow on the mobility front, and her skills have long cast times that can be interrupted. But if you can manage her timing, she's a great choice for consistent range damage. These A-tier hunters aren't the absolute top of the food chain, but they're definitely strong enough to carry you through tough fights. Whether you're looking for support, DPS, or a bit of both, these characters have a lot to offer, even if they're not quite must-have picks. The hunters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Amamiya Mire, Emma Laurent, Go Gun-hee, Harper, Isla Wright, Seo Ji-woo, and Thomas Andre. Let's dive into some of the absolute best hunters in solo leveling. Arise. These characters are basically the cream of the crop, unstoppable in battle and a blast to play, but don't get too comfortable. If you're not careful, some of them will leave you questioning why you ever thought you could be the one to stand up against them. First up, we have Amamiya Mire. This girl is the epitome of a glass cannon, packing a punch with high damage but requiring a little finesse. She's super self-sufficient, able to recover MP, reduce cooldowns, and power up her gauge. But here's the catch, the more you rely on that MP, the more you're walking a tightrope. Still, if you play her right, she's a total beast in damage output. Next, we've got Emma Laurent. If you're looking for an all-around powerhouse, Emma's your girl. She's got that fantastic break damage and crazy AoE, plus she buffs your team's fire damage and defense penetration. Think of her as a DPS with tanky vibes. She's got tons of crowd control, burns, and oh, did I mention her breaking attacks? Emma's not just opening the fight, she's also wrecking those broken enemies in the process. She might not look like a tank, but trust me, she pulls her weight. Then, there's Go Gun-hee. talk about a seasoned veteran. This guy brings the pain with multiple break-applied skills and some serious buffs for survivability and overall damage. But what really makes him shine is his synergy with light element characters. When paired with them, he's almost unstoppable. And trust me, his experience and monstrous kit make him a true powerhouse in any team. He's not just about damage, he's the whole package. Harper is another incredible pick. She's got high damage output and more break abilities than you can count. Plus, her buffs to Dark Element Hunters are seriously valuable. Now, she might be a bit on the pricey side, but for what you get in return, Harper's a total gem. She's the kind of support unit you can rely on to turn the tide of a battle, making her an absolute staple for any Dark Element build. Esil Radiru is an absolute monster when it comes to buffs. She can reduce cooldowns for your second character's ultimate skill, which is huge for maximizing damage. And if you've got any Dark Element Hunters on your team, Eli's synergy with them is off the charts. She's one of the best Dark type healers in the game, and the investment you make in her definitely pays off. Now, Seo Jiwoo, she's known for having the best break ability out of all the hunters, and trust me, that's a game changer for those tough bosses. Her ability to provide shields and bonus break damage to the team is invaluable. With her high skill set and the right weapon, Seo is just unstoppable. Boss fights, you can count on her to carry your team through them without breaking a sweat. Thomas Andre is the tank DPS hybrid you never knew you needed. He's got insane damage output, but with the right build, he can also tank and support with shields. He's a solid light element fighter who can hit hard and take a few hits himself. His MP is decent enough, but you'll be spamming skills quite a bit to really take advantage of his full potential. If you want a fighter that's as beastly as they come, Thomas is your guy. So there you have it. These hunters are the absolute top tier picks in solo leveling. Arise. Each one brings something unique to the table, whether it's insane damage, fantastic buffs, or that perfect synergy with your team. If you're lucky enough to get your hands on any of these guys, you'll be cruising through content like it's nothing. Who's your favorite? Let me know in the comments. The hunters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Alicia Blanche, Cha Hae-in, and Charlotte. Alright, let's talk about the real MVPs in solo leveling Arise, the S+ tier hunters. These are the ones who really know how to carry your team and make sure you're smashing through stages. We're diving deep into the big guns, Alicia Blanche, Cha Hae-in, and Charlotte. Buckle up because these hunters are about to change the game for you. First up, Alicia Blanche. If you want a character that just slaps when it comes to water DPS, Alicia is your gal. She's not only packing some insane damage, but her freeze ability is an absolute game changer against crowds. Throw in her basic skill, which creates shields for some extra defense, and she becomes this unstoppable tanky powerhouse. And here's the kicker. Alicia really shines when you hit those ascension levels. Her A1, A3, and A5 abilities, that's where the magic happens. So, if you're serious about unlocking her full potential, start grinding for those ascensions. Next, we've got a Cha Hae-in, and let me tell you, she might just be the top tier damage dealer in the entire game right now. If you want someone who can literally obliterate stages, Cha Hae-in's your best bet. She's got insane DPS, and to top it off, her skill stops enemies from healing themselves, making sure nothing can slow down your rampage. Honestly, if you're all about that high risk, high reward playstyle, Cha is the one you want on your team. Her weapon is pretty much insane, but the only thing that holds her back a bit is her survivability. If you can keep her alive though, she'll carry you to the top. Then there's Charlotte. Now, if you need someone with top tier crowd control and burst damage, Charlotte is the one to watch. She's all about those AoE abilities, which makes her an absolute beast when dealing with large groups of enemies. But here's the thing, you've got to know how to control her manually. Autoplay just doesn't do her justice. When you're controlling her directly, she can dish out tons of damage, no problem, but if you let her go on auto, she might not live up to her full potential. So, if you want to see Charlotte truly pop off, manual control is key. Alicia, Cha, and Charlotte all bring their unique flavors to the table. Alicia's that perfect mix of offense and defense with her shields and freeze, while Cha just blows enemies out of the water with raw damage. And Charlotte? She's got all the control and burst damage you could want in a mage, but it's not just about what they bring individually. They complement each other in ways that can really elevate your whole team's strategy. So, what makes these three hunters stand out from the rest of the pack? It's their versatility and insane power. You can throw them in almost any situation and they'll hold their own. Whether you're tackling tough stages, grinding through those tough bosses, or just looking to make your team a little stronger, these three are the perfect picks. If you're serious about pushing your team to new heights, don't sleep on Alicia, Cha, and Charlotte. You'll be glad you invested in them. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.